A new documentary out there is sparking an old controversy. The film takes aim at environmentalists who say that they care more about the environment than the economic well-being of the people who live there. Let's take a look.
It is true that almost half the village houses now belong to Geber Resources. But Romanian law does not allow private companies to force people to sell their property. According to locals, the company has bought their properties and not seized them. The locals say it's their only chance to sell their isolated homes.
All right, that's just a snippet of what's in this documentary, a fair and balanced debate now. Joining us live, Phelim McAleer, who is the director and producer of the movie Mind Your Own Business, spelled as you see there on your screen, and John Pasacantando is the executive director of Greenpeace. Welcome, gentlemen, to both of you. Phelim, let me start with you. You know, the argument, I guess, here is that the mining improves the economy and that the people there want these jobs. So what should come first?
Well, it's not a matter of what comes first. These are already deeply polluted areas. Like the river in Russia, Montana, and Romania, where I look at, first of all, is bright orange. It's the colour of Fanta. There's cadmium, there's lead in it. And the Romanian government's quite clever. They say to the mining company, sure, you can mine here, but you have to clean the place up first, and then you have to put 30 million in an escrow account so the place is cleaned up afterwards. Greenpeace and all these other organisations, they've no plans to clean it up. They look at this poverty that's there and they see it as something that should be preserved. You know, they see poverty as a lifestyle choice and they want to preserve it, whereas the people who live in poverty see it as a curse. Right. And they want jobs and development.
Phelim, part of the funding for this movie came from a Canadian mining company, which of course we should just sort of get out there right off the bat. What do you say about that? Did they influence the way you put together this film? Because they did pay for it.
No, they saw it at the end like everyone else. They didn't see it until it was finished. I mean, I've made something like 4 documentaries now, and this is the first documentary where the funder never saw anything before it was finished. So in many respects, this is the most independent documentary I've ever made. It's probably one of the most independent documentaries ever made by anyone, because the funders had absolutely no control and did not see one piece of footage until it was finished.
All right, let's hear from Greenpeace's side. John, you know, you listen to these people in the documentary, they say, look, we need jobs, we need to work, and this mine is going to give us that opportunity to change our lives, finally.
Well, 2 things. The Canadian mining company, Gabriel Resources, paid for a propaganda film and it got it. The people of this valley that will be destroyed if this mine goes forward were not allowed to speak. The filmmaker only chose to hear a couple of miners who are looking for jobs. There is a community group of people, hundreds of people, who are refusing to sell their land, refusing to be evacuated from this valley. The fellow named Eugene David, the filmmaker, refused to interview. Eugene David has a letter I hope you'll put on the Fox website later. Eugene David speaks of this mine, a mine that will dig 500,000 tons of rocks out of this valley every week for 16 years. We'll use. All
right, well, let's give Phelim a chance to respond to that. What do you say to the accusation that you didn't talk to a lot of people who feel very differently than your documentary presents?
Unlike John, I've actually been to Russia, Montana, and Romania. Unlike John, I didn't sit in my air-conditioned apartment in Washington and tell the world what the people of Russia, Montana think. I went there and I talked to them. And I've been there, I think, 12 times. I've been there 12 times. I've been there 12 times. John, if you let me finish, please. I've been there 12 times, and I've stood in that square in Russia, Montana, main square, and I have never, and I could swear on this, I have never met one person opposed to the mine. The people who are opposed to the mine. Sir. I look, John. John, I've been there. You haven't. I mean,
they're reaching out to
John,
us. People on the ground are reaching out to us saying, "Please help stop this mine." This propaganda.
John, let me ask you something. You know, when you look at this situation, and according to what Phelim says, the river, the area is very polluted already. So obviously, some environmental work needs to be done to correct that situation. But you know, isn't it important? Do you give him any of this? Is it important that these people have jobs so that they can feed their families and feed their children? And if a mine will provide that for them, is there any room in Greenpeace's agenda to allow them to do that?
Where the room is for the local people to decide the fate of themselves and their valley, not for Phelim and a Canadian mining company.
But do you grant that there are some people, John, do you grant that there are some people in this community, and Phelim would say lots of them, who do want the mine?
I think you could find people in any community that may want it and some that don't want it. What I'm saying is that there's a majority of people in this valley who say there are 2,000 of us who will have to be evacuated. Phelim doesn't care about them.
John, you call it,
who will be removed from their homes. Do you understand that the school will be destroyed, that the homes will be destroyed, the river,
all right,
the mountains,
we could
the
go
pastures,
on. We
the
could take a lot more
churches
time
and
to
cemeteries.
talk about this, gentlemen. I wish we did have more time because it's a very
I
interesting
hope
debate.
you will post the letter.
And one that people
John
should...
calls it, they're buying the houses. People, two-thirds of the people have sold their houses to Gabriel Resources. They're not being evacuated.
This is
they're
a
queuing up
corporate
to sell their
propaganda
houses.
film.
All right,
Bill.
Phelim McAleer,
The money is in the bank,
John
John. The money is in the
Pasquantando.
bank.
It's a good debate, and I thank you very much, both of you, for coming on today.
Thank you.
The movie's called Mind Your Business. Okay, here's a look at the two missing girls from Maryland that we've been following for you. We've got an update from them. One of the friends spoke to Rachel Fight's mom, and we're going to tell you what she had to say about where she thinks they are. And later, America's mayor and presidential hopeful Rudy Giuliani took a pre-announcement fundraising trip over the weekend. We're going to talk about that. Meanwhile, Senator Clinton spoke to supporters on the campaign trail, and she raised some eyebrows in Iowa.
We face a lot of dangers in the world, and in the gentleman's words, we face a lot of evil men. You know, people like Osama bin Laden comes to mind.